Yes. So good morning to everyone. Good morning to all. I'm really happy that you joined today's session because today we will talk about social innovation and really the pathway to resilience and adaptation at regional level. My name is Katarina Fortun and I work in the European Commission. I have work experience from the cohesion policy, so very much based at regional level, local economies. And I now work in the field of climate, mainly on the adaptation. I work with the Covenant of Mayors, with the cities, and I also work on the European Climate Pact, where we want to engage with citizens and really local providers. So I'm very happy that today we have this amazing session, to me amazing in the way that it's really holistic and it is about social innovation and creating the social value for citizens, for all of us. So it is about the prosperity. So I'm really glad that we have Jürgen Schulze with us, Leona and Thomas. So Jürgen is a senior researcher at the Dortmund University. Leona, she's a climate manager for Minden-Lübbecke district. I'm sorry, I don't speak German, so maybe my pronunciation is totally wrong. And I'm just reading it. And Thomas Kuhl, who is a head of relationship management of public sector clients at NRU Bank. I'm really glad that we can see the project from different angles and that we have the research, we have the manager and a researcher manager, and also the banker around the table, even if we are in the virtual table, because I believe that these are really the barriers and key obstacles, how to connect the academia, the research, the scientific data, the real management, the implementation of the project, and of course, how to engage the funding. And so I'll be very short because I don't want to take the time from the content, but just to say that the project was funded by LIFE. And what's important also to say that the new LIFE program will have 4 subgroups, and one of them will be the climate change mitigation and adaptation. There will be more information in a session today afternoon, so I invite you to follow the LIFE program session today. And the project, the Evolving Regions, the former LIRCA, is actually a large-scale project on regional climate adaptation. And it is a flagship, so very happy to hear about that, really a pilot flagship, where to go, the vision for urban land adaptation in North Rhine-Westphalia. And today we will hear about really the framework of a more complete adaptation chain. So I'm looking forward to this holistic view and to listen to your path to climate resilient region. Now, I pass the word to you, 3 of you, that you coordinated the presentation. I'll give you 29 minutes, and by 10:33, I would like you to finish. So we have 10 minutes for questions. I ask you all to please first mute your mics so we can really hear well. And also depending on your Wi-Fi, maybe switch off the camera. And also, if you want to raise your hand, please do so. We will have time for questions. And during the presentation or after, also you can write your questions in the chat. So I will be following the chat and I will raise and read your questions. And with this, I end. At the end, there will be 1 minute of wrap up. And by 10:45, we will finish our session. So the floor is yours, Jürgen, Leon, and Thomas. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And a warm welcome from us. Thank you for the warm welcome, Katarina, and we are really proud to present in this forum of Covenant of Mayors. And you told everything, I have not to add, but you should, after 29 minutes, have the idea of the takeaways. We want to shoot you should recognize the value of regional climate adaptation and cooperation for focused investments. We will put your attention on small urban and rural areas, often missing in the spotlight of adaptation. And we are proud to present that full adaptation value chain, including funding and investments. And our social innovation is the stakeholder developed roadmap as an investment plan for the regions. Our role are described. I'm the project manager, and Thomas Kuhl is a hardcore banker and funder with public clients, and Leona Eichel managed a lot of things in the region. And we take that to you. And what is Evolving Regions? Of course, you mentioned it already. It is a live project. Thank you for live program to fund us, and also for the Federal Ministry of North Rhine-Westphalia to fund not only technical innovations, but also social innovations. That is very unusual, and thanks for that. We are 7 regions. The regions covers 29% of the area of North Rhine-Westphalia, and the Rivers region in the Netherlands also partner in that Evolving Regions Consortium. Evolving Regions consists of 7 institutional partners with different competences, so we get a transdisciplinary setting. And the expectations, Katharina mentioned it, are great. The Ministry of North Rhine-Westphalia told us the flagship for climate change adaptation in rural areas. So if you are in 25 minutes, I hope we can convince you about that message and that ambition. We have the already mentioned targets. We have, how can regions and municipalities adapt to complex climate change challenges? It is a topic, but it's not so easy to handle. So we have 3 specific aims. We have the self-empowerment. We think that the regions have to act, not a consultant has to write a thick paper, but the regions become resilient by cooperating, by knowledge, by new dialogue formats, by network structures to develop themselves in future when the life funding is vanishing. So adaptation will be integrated. This is our second specific aim in the planning processes. And we roll out our procedure, our roadmap procedure in different formats, and we invite you to that later in the presentation. That is the structure of our project. Of course, the regional processes have the main focus, and I talk about that a lot in this next 10 minutes. We enable also an inter-regional exchange, mainstreaming, and monitoring. I can only have a small touch to it, but also interesting. And just to give you impression, like all of you, I think that is the way we started. That is the way we communicate in the last year. And that is the way we make a visualization of all the discussed contributions in the dialogue format. So that is a really good experience, because I never thought that it will work so well like it has happened the last half year. But the core of my presentation part is to give you an idea of our complete value chain, the complete adaptation cycle. With the help of integrated road mapping, that is our name for that, participation regions go through different phases on climate adaptation. They clarify the mandate, they set a scope, and forecast in the forecasting process. They go in the future in the dialogues. They come back from the future and the backcasting, and they're preparing a roadmap as an integrated planning document, including funding. So I can give you only some snapshots on it, but the time is running, so a little bit I skip the clarifying on the mandate, because even it is very, very important. So I concentrate on the other phases. The scoping is setting the scope not to deal with everything, but to have a base, evidence base for all these dialogues, starting all the network structures, and to focus them a little bit. And we are convinced that not only technical data, but also stakeholder analysis are necessary. Who's responsible for what, who is acting in that field, and not informal participating. The citizens Katharina mentioned, and that is our idea, to have a base to these dialogues. And of course, we have a climate impact analysis, and we have really good partner from the University of Dortmund. They help to close the gap between data interpretation and acting, and have new formats for that. And it's real challenging work they are doing, and they are really supporting the processes so that can stay in the regions and used in future also. That is the second step. The third step is the forecasting. That is the expected future in this process is determined by analytical procedures, and the desired future is worked out by participating actors in a process. It includes existing regional guidelines, or it is developed, like this example should only give an impression as a small guideline for the process. And also we have also the future climate impact analysis for 2040 that shows not only the climate signals, but also the regional development, the demographic change, and from that it derives sensitivities, and have a good base for the discussion, and to get the participants of the workshops and the dialogues in the future mood. That is the idea. And we also have testimonials. They have also visions for that process. How should the region develop in future? So that are the modules in that future setting. Only a snapshot, like I told you. And from that, that is, I think, one of the USPs of evolving regions. From that top of the future, like the hill, we go backwards, backcasting, to develop strategies from measures from that future. We are the regional actors that develop that, and they discover different pathways, not only that pathway they are used. They get off the usual paths and discover new thematic solutions. So that we support by several templates, and we help them with tools to prioritize everything so that you can start that. The second, what we think is a USP of evolving regions is the way we discuss. We try to support the actors in the regions with co-development between different stakeholders, and empowering them by dialogue. So that is our idea. Of course, has been in presence, but also, that tools. What I really like in last year is that it works also virtual, and some stakeholders participate they will never have done in a presence workshop. So it's also an advantage of that. Of course, a lot of disadvantage, but one advantage is that. The last thing is the roadmaps are under construction still, and I will report about them in half a year. But to go to the financing, the finances are part of the measure development. They push the region to invest. There are also funding programs given orientation for that, so that the stakeholders can develop measures in a certain way. The roadmap is a regional adaptation investment plan, and we support the stakeholders in the regions by consulting and exploring them for funding. That are our regions, and the first 4 regions, 60% is done. We are in the backcasting phase, and with the Netherlands and our friends in the Netherlands, we are in a mutual exchange and we learn a lot about them, their processes, and at the moment the dialogue phases in Coesfeld, Menü-Lübbecke, and Lippe are starting. So you get a beauty. You can see how beauty in North Rhine-Westphalia is in the rural areas. So from the beauty shots. Only a last point about the mainstreaming. We do a lot of things, but I want to stress one thing. We are supporting to establish an adaptation market. We give our knowledge to 23 consultants. We trained them in workshops, and they really, it was really exciting to discuss with them, to help to make an introduction in our methods and tools. And you see how lucky they are. They get a certification from the ministry about the finishing of this process. And that will be also part of our leverage points. That's my last slide. And the leverage point, how to extend our knowledge, is of course the capacity building in the participation regions. I think that is a core point of our project. And on the other hand, we take a contribution to the adaptation market. It is the next consultant training coming in 21. And the region has also budget within the project to order them for several tasks. So we strengthen, we offer to you, if you're interested, learning labs in 21, 22 to strengthen municipalities who are interested also in that. And also institutional consultants like farmer unions have some ideas and maybe can participate. The fourth option or leverage point is that we have an international exchange in 3 transnational workshops and 2 conferences. In the workshops, you can follow our methods step by step. And if you want, you can visit our homepage, Evolving Regions. There we have some video stories, some storytelling about what is happening in the regions. And you can follow us also on Twitter. Last thing, we are working at the end of the project as a funding scheme also for social innovation and recommend them to the federal state, to the nation, maybe, or to maybe it could be of interest, because that is one of the core of our ideas how to make regions resilient in future. And that is a perfect switch over to Thomas Kullen.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Thanks for introducing me as a hardcore banker. I haven't heard that expression before. It sounds threatening. I hope not to be threatening here, or not to threat you here. I would like to give you to discuss 3 points with you. First would be what do we do in general as a promotional bank. The second point is how do we work with our clients in projects like these, and the third point would be financing considerations. I work for the NRW Bank, where you can switch to page 28, please, Jürgen. Thank you. NRW Bank is the largest regional promotional bank in Germany. There is a kind of system of promotional banks in Germany, with KfW as the nationwide promotional bank. And in many of the German federal states, there are regional promotional banks with different strategies. Our focus here is to support 2 main client groups in North Rhine-Westphalia. The first main client groups are the municipalities, 427 all over North Rhine-Westphalia. And the second client group are the municipal enterprises, like trade fairs, airports, or other or energy companies belonging to the municipalities. We do not offer our clients only, let's say, our own promotional schemes or our own advisory resources, but we help them also to use KfW funding, so the national institutions, or to provide funding or advisory services from other units. So we are not, so we are open to other sources of support outside of NRW Bank. A core part of what we do is to provide platforms. So we offer our clients 2 large-scale events a year. One is Municipal Finance Market Forum, where we invite all NRW municipalities. And the second is for our second client group, Public Utilities Forum, which we host once a year. And on top of that, we do a large number of smaller formats like workshops, brainstorming sessions, topic-related exchanges, where we just try to spread as much knowledge as possible and to bring our customers together. In terms of expert knowledge we try to provide, we focus on energy, transport, digitalization, so future-related topics which are very important for our clients. And among that, a special focus is given to climate protection goals, and we help our customers to achieve their goals as best as possible. If we can switch to page 29, please. This is an overview where how we generally support our clients in, let's say, 3 areas. So in early stages of projects, we are able and willing to sit down with our clients or groups of clients or networks of partners, local stakeholders, and so on, to formulate strategies for problems they have, for projects that they plan, and we try to provide information, planning, cooperation, and outline project strategies, but always, maybe I come back to the hardcore banker again, always with a view of a banker. So we are not a planner, we are no architects, we are no engineers. There are experts, obviously, for all of these topics, while our expertise is in financing. And if we are involved in the strategy process, our input is centralized around how do we finance in the end a project. And there are 2, let's say, main sources of this financing. The first one, obviously, public grants. So money for nothing, maybe would be another expression for that, which is always highly welcomed. So we have many tools in place to research various public grant schemes. We provide overviews to our clients. We help them to select which is a suitable scheme for the project or for the clients, and so on. And overall, the debt financing to implement an optimal funding structure. This is what we try to do, including public grants, including promotional programs or loans. And this could also include green financings, which we offer since last year to our customers in North Rhine-Westphalia. So this is how we work in general in projects like these, and how we support this project here as well. Going over to the next slide, I wanted to give you some insights into available funding for these projects. In general, in Germany, infrastructure investments in climate adaptation measures, but not only in this field, for municipalities, there is, let's say, a large pool of funding options available at attractive conditions for municipalities. This might be different for private initiatives, but for municipalities, I think there is a good combination of public grants, promotional programs, as well as bank financings. And with current low interest rates, I think this is, it is possible to put together very attractive funding strategies. What is always an issue is, or a discussion point at least, is there funding available for personal costs? And there is a kind of mixed answer to that. So if in a project external advisors are hired, which are linked to the infrastructure investments, then these costs of external advisors like planners, architects, and so on are funded as well. But normally internal staff working on such programs, they are excluded from funding. So this is sometimes an obstacle if a municipality needs to hire more staff to run a project, then this cannot be financed via, for example, promotional programs. And my last point on the financing considerations, I think it's always very important to focus on the municipal budgets, because every investment and its financing needs to be included in the annual budget. This is approved by the municipal council and permitted by the supervisory authority. So it is very advisable, if you do a project, to coordinate and communicate early and closely with the municipal treasury, because there all the information of planned investments is coming together, and there is also prioritization. So there is a lot of needs for, let's say, social investments in daycare for children, in school buildings, and everything else. And so there is yeah, obviously a bottleneck, and unfortunately many municipalities in North Rhine-Westphalia already have a high debt load, so you cannot extend that without end. So this is important to go to coordinate closely with the municipal treasury. Thanks for that, Jürgen.
Hello for my part too. As the last presentation of today, I would like to present you shortly an example for financial funding in the context of regional climate adaptation, emerged from and inspired by the project Evolving Regions. First, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Leonaline Eichel. I'm the Climate Protection and Adaptation Manager in the district of Minden-Lübbecke. Minden-Lübbecke is part of the project Evolving Regions you heard before. Jürgen talked about it. Minden-Lübbecke is located in the northeastern corner of North Rhine-Westphalia with a population of around about 310,000 inhabitants. It's a rural region. We have 65% agricultural area, which is a lot. And our objective is to improve the resilience of the region to the effects of climate change. In the Evolving Regions process, the regions develop local thematic areas, and in Minden-Lübbecke, these are agriculture and forestry because of the large agricultural area, climate-sensitive species and habitats. And this is because of Minden-Lübbecke has the largest peat box swamps in North Rhine-Westphalia, which are very important for climate protection. And then the last thematic area we are working on are the climate resilient urban and village design structures. The next slide, please. In the regional process Jürgen talked about, each region in Evolving Regions goes through a regional process with several workshops in these three subject areas. And our first workshops were in the climate resilient urban and village design in Minden-Lübbecke. We developed visions and first measures and structured them in measure profiles. You can see this on the right side. Jürgen, can you? Yeah, that is the measure profile. We ordered the measures in this structure and had reasons, strategies, targets, connection with everyday tasks, deadlines and resources, and also the stakeholders participating ordered in these charts. The participants developed two profiles, especially for green roofs and facades in the first workshops, and this was very interesting. So our goal is to embed funding opportunities, of course, for green roofs and facades in Evolving Regions and make it possible that the citizens can use these possibilities. So right at this time, the funding program, the special program Climate Resilience in Municipalities by the Ministry for the Environment of North Rhine-Westphalia came out and offered us the chance of the financial implementation for Minden-Lübbecke. And now we are able to set up a funding program for roof and facade greening in the amount of 300,000 euros for owners of privately and commercially used buildings. And with this funding program, we can offer a grant of a maximum of 50% of the expenses. And eligible for funding are, for example, the material, the plans for the roofs and facades, and also the external services by specialists can be funded. And in this funding program, we use the evolving region synergies. Jürgen talked about it before. This is very, very perfectly organized in the evolving regions program because we have a lot of contact to the other districts. And in our case, Lippe, our neighbor region, is also part of evolving regions. And we organize this funding together because Lippe sets up the same funding program for its district. So we cooperated in the application process, we cooperated in drawing up our own funding guidelines, and now as the programs are ready and both public, we cooperate in the field of public relations. So Tobias Priss, who is the regional promoter in the Lippe district, said that climate change knows no borders, and the common goals make it possible to distribute the necessary tasks between the different people and to complement each other in order to be able to optimally use the forces. So this funding program we now have for green roofs and facades fits perfectly to evolving regions and the whole strategy in North Rhine-Westphalia. Okay, back to the whole project of evolving regions. We are also able to tender a consultancy service for the project. Jürgen talked about this before. The consultants are ready for the regions, and our consultant was assigned in May to take over the regional subject agriculture and forestry, because this is such a large subject within the regional process, and we're starting next week with the workshops also in this regional subject. So our consultant supports the team and me as a regional promoter, and establishes a network of regional stakeholders. So to summarize everything, Evolving Regions is a flagship of climate adaptation. It provides the regions a climate effects analysis, a roadmap as a catalog of measures, and a final investment plan for us to work further. It builds synergies and networks between the regions, seen in our example of Lippe and Minden-Lübbecke. It calls the region's attention to funding program at the North Rhine-Westphalia program, creates measures eligible for funding because we're working together on these, and it supports the region with consultancy services. So we three would like to thank you for your attention. Here are our contacts of Mr. Schulze, Mr. Kohl, and me. And yeah, visit. We would like to recommend our website and the Twitter channel. Visit them, and thank you very much.
Wow, thank you to all of you. It's such an inspirational story that actually my questions are like, it's so light and so organized and everything so smooth. I see that there are no questions in the chat, so I take the floor to ask questions that I have, because listening to you, Leona, I start with you. Have you encountered any problems? Was there any challenge on your path? Like, everything is so organized and you all communicate super well, and I find it really amazing. So I wonder, are there any shadows, problems?
Yes, of course, there are, and of course it's not always easy because we have such a large group of actors. We contact them every week and invite them to our Evolving Regions workshops, and we have maybe 100 people, and become more and more only in the district of Minden-Lübbecke, and Lippe and the other regions have a lot actors too, and stakeholders, and yeah, when you're working with such a large group, it's not always easy, but the organization with the technical university is always easy, and it's perfectly organized, the whole project. And yeah, everybody is so nice. It's perfect.
Thank you, Leona. And I do see that Bernd, he has a question. So Bernd, just take the floor and please ask.
Yes, thanks a lot, Katharina, and thanks a lot for this really great presentation, particularly the aspect of the financing institution. I'm not fully in the picture right now what the situation is in Germany. I mean, a couple of years ago, we had through the National Climate Initiative lots of funding available and resources there, which, for example, municipalities could use. And the problem was that there were not enough clients. So there is the problem of, I mean, the Mittelabflusszwang, or the problem to find investment projects. And I mean, this is a question to Thomas Kuhl, with regards, I'm sure you are also involved through the KfW in this kind of program. Whether, I mean, where do you see the bottleneck here? I mean, in the previous presentation from Genoa, of course, that's a completely different geographical setting and institutional settings, but it was interesting to hear that for adaptation measures, they guess that the main sources are still public funds, mostly from regional funding, European funding. And the question is, how can we attract I mean, private financing in particular for this kind of investment projects? Maybe you have heard about the green bonds and the social bonds, which the city of Paris have emitted a couple of years ago, which is a very successful scheme. Again, Paris can not be compared with Siegen-Wittgenstein or one of or the other communities, of course. But is this maybe a model which could be interesting to look at and to find a way to translate this into maybe also regional context?
Thank you very much for your question, Bernd. I try my very best. Maybe to start with your last point. Obviously, green bonds are hot topic for years already, and social bonds, newer feature, are becoming the same hot topic, I guess. However, from my personal view, or from our institutional view as well, to issue a bond is only suitable for, let's say, very, very large municipalities with high funding needs, because you know that you have a lot of setup costs, and you have to pay advisors and listing and legal fees and all that. So let's say, to name maybe a city, Cologne would be a target in Germany with 1 million inhabitants, or a little more than 1 million inhabitants. But the number is very, very limited. So there would not be 5, I think, suitable municipalities in North Rhine-Westphalia to do that. You could think about combining needs of various partners in order to reach to make it economically, but we have thought about this topic, and our solution as a promotional bank was, we provide our customers green financings, and we refinance ourselves with the issue of green bonds. And these green finance, we offer them cheaper to our clients because the funding for us is cheaper via the green bonds. So in this indirect way, the municipalities benefit from the issuance of green bonds without having the need to do that by themselves, and they can ask us for 1 million or 2 million or whatever for very small amounts. We have no threshold limits, so as long as they meet certain criteria from the EU taxonomy, we offer them this green financing, and refinance. We pool that and refinance that via green bonds. And maybe in the beginning, you were talking about or asking about inquiry about obstacles in, let's say, funding, available funding. I mentioned one obstacle with, let's say, debt burdens and prioritization on the local level. Another obstacle in some promotional scheme is, especially when we talk about, public grants, is some of these schemes are really highly complex. So you need to put a lot of effort in it to understand the mechanism of the program, and then let's say you commit to certain behavior for a long period of time. So this can be a burden for municipalities. We try to help as best as we can, but it would be better if the thresholds would be lower in many of these public grant programs.
But just to follow up, that is one objective of the evolving regions mechanism to increase the capacity of particularly this, the capacity to access this kind of funding, isn't it?
Yeah, and we do that as well. So
yeah.
So we help our customers to go through that process.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
And then, okay, I see no more questions from the chat. So I still want to have my question to Jürgen, maybe, but it's open question on the social innovation. So would you say that social innovation is about technical solutions? And if yes, and also, are you inspired by these dialogue processes? Because if we talk about social innovation, it is a lot about really engaging with citizens, getting everyone on board, believing in the social innovation. So really the technical solutions, increasing the shared value, communicating and engaging the citizens and the stakeholders. What is your view on that?
Yeah.
Or what is the experience maybe?
Yeah, there are two roles of social innovation. The one role is, for example, like we have it here in Germany at the moment, the heat waves. You can look for a lot of technical solutions, but also you can change your practices, so social practices. So you drink a lot, you can have a break during the heat days. You can use cool spots for being outside. So there's a lot of change of behavior. And on the other side, the co-productive way of looking for new measures that helps a lot to overwhelm barriers and obstacles. And in our roadmap, like let's say some words to burn, it is we have the financing of consulting. One measure could be what if we, for example, we develop a heat competence center in one other project to help people how to behave in Germany. That is not usual the heats we have here at the moment. Different to the times before. So that is the social innovation, and we write them down in a roadmap. And even if it's not done at the moment, it can be in an orientation plan, and then a lot of investment possibilities are written down and agreed in the regions. So there's both to change behavior in adaptation and to look for co-productive ways of measures and solutions.
Thank you, Jürgen. I see questions from Elena, which I actually, seeing that we have 1 minute, I would dare to reply to those questions, but I think that you all see it. So if you would like to tap your answers to that, how you feel about what kind of projects are emerging, so I will read it loud. And also, how does this link to the current mission adaptation? This is, I would like to reply, and the 100 regions, the demonstrators. Also, how does this link also to the public funding like the ESIF, so the structural funds, and leverage on the Green Deal strategies like farm to fork, biodiversity, and of course the climate law, and also we have the new adaptation strategy. So if anyone feels like replying to the chat, please do so. It's enriching the knowledge hub, our wisdom, collective wisdom. And because we are 10:45, I'll kind of wrap up, at least from my point of view, what I have learned today and what are the key messages for me takeaways. And it is really, to me, it's to be smart. When Jürgen, you were mentioning the interpretation of the data, the technical solutions, but smart also in our behavior, because it's to be smart to adapt. And we are human beings. So I believe that we have this reptile brain behind that really hope that now is the action and calling, okay, let's do something for survival. So I hope that humanity, we are smart enough to really understand the need to act, also to be systemic. So as Leona, she was mentioning, like I was really impressed by the organization, by the structure. I might contact you maybe in future, because I think that it's really something that I would like to inspire other regions, because it is exactly like to be really systemic in a way of multi-level governance. So member states, regions, cities, and really going local and being there for municipalities, for cities. But we need this umbrella of the region, because that's important support. And also we could hear it today in the previous presentation from Genoa, how important it is that the city feels supported by the region, also for the reasons of scaling up and advisory and capacity building, and of course at national level. And I was really impressed also by the capacity building that you trained the 23 experts on adaptation, because to me also the eyes of adaptation need to be everywhere. It's really an integral part of projects. And then the third, so it's smart, systemic, and speed to me. And speed also, of course, we act now. I'm happy that we share this, also the knowledge at regional level. Like I could see like how much, also you mentioned the exchange with Netherlands. And to me, speed is also about financing. So having also Thomas Kuhl here, I was really, I'm really happy that I could hear how you organize the private funding, even of course, National Promotional Bank, but at national level, regional level, and the advisory that you provide. Because to me, one of the problems that I see when I listen to cities is about advisory, because it's very important. It's not just to get a commercial loan. And also now going to Elena's question, because I can also travel a lot because I'm very passionate about the climate and society and social innovation. But what can we do at EU level? So where we are now launching the missions. So that's like we have 5 missions that are linked to research. So they will be financed by Europe, by Horizon Europe budget. We have the mission on adaptation, which is dedicated to regions and communities. The objective is to have 100 regions demonstrators that really showcase that it's possible to be climate neutral and resilient. We also take on board financial institutions, because the mission will have budget of approximately 1 billion euro. And this is just a drop in the ocean. So even for these 100 demonstrators, we want to take on board financial institutions and other funding, like structural funds, mainly because of the volume, and new generation funds. Because these cities, if they have the research, they have the technical capacity, they have the technical solutions, we need to really make it happen. And for that, with the speed, we need budget. And not just budget, because it's technical solutions, it's the financing. And to me, as Jürgen, you were mentioning, and all of you were mentioning it, it's the societal transformation. So our mission on adaptation is mission on adaptation and societal transformation. And that brings me to the second important initiative that the Commission launched in December 2020. And we are now having a very important event on the 29th of June. And it is about Climate Pact, the European Climate Pact. And why do we need the European Climate Pact? Because we understand that the European Green Deal is the vision. It's the plan where to go. We have farm to fork, we have biodiversity, we have the adaptation, the strategy on adaptation, we have the legislation. And yet this can be implemented, or this can happen only if we are all on board. So the European Climate Pact is here to really take people on board at the local level, engage with citizens, engage with local providers, with local stakeholders, with cities, really to make pledges, commitments on this path to resilience. And because I'm very short of time, so number 3, it's really mentioning how important is the EU funds. I'm happy that you mentioned the live. There will be a session this afternoon on live, so please follow that. We also have the horizon, not just missions. And of course, we have the structural funds that are always there in long-term perspective. So very important because it goes beyond just the political cycles. And with this, yeah, I'm happy, Leona, many thanks for replying. I'll read it out as well. But before that, I would like to invite you all to the next session that is starting in 9 minutes. And we will go on this road map and the flow of adaptation and financing. So we will be discussing with the European Investment Bank about the financial products on adaptation. On the advisory, we will talk about the urban agenda, the Urbis advisory. I'm sure we will also talk about mitigation a bit on Lena's reply that concerning the projects, sorry to both, for example, the funding programs for Green, Rubek and Lippe. Also, we cooperate, thank you for the example. So also we cooperate with the Consumer Center and plan to develop new projects for citizen participation together. All measures are developed in the ER workshops. This to me is just such an example that of a pledge under the European Climate Pact, because the European Climate Pact is also about collecting all these great initiatives on the ground to really bring it to one space, the European Climate Pact, so it's accessible and visible to other regions, to other cities, other citizens. Thank you very much. It was to me a very passionate and excellent session. So thank you very much. And I hope that we meet each other maybe in future in other context.
Thank you for the moderation and the conclusions. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
And of course, thank you, Nancy, for the technical support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day and nice workshops today.
Thank you. You too. Wish you a beautiful day.